Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's Jane's broadcast on the FY27 U.S. Defense Budget Request. My name is Jesse Berman, and I'm the manager of the Jane's Global Platforms and Systems team, also known as GPS. At Jane's, we deliver validated, decision-grade intelligence to support geopolitical, military, and defense analysis. Within that, the GPS team focuses on tracking and forecasting defense investment across more than 71 countries, including the United States, over a 15-year horizon. This FY27 request began to take shape in early April, with top-line figures released first, followed by more detailed supporting documentation throughout April and into early May. Since then, our team has been working through those materials, updating our datasets, and assessing what's changed across programs, priorities, and longer-term plans. In today's session, we have an opportunity to move beyond the top-line numbers and unpack what this budget actually signals about the Defense Department's investment strategy. First, where the clear winners and losers are emerging, looking not just at which programs are funded, but which are truly being accelerated and what that tells us about the department's priorities. Second, a look into the future, including the status of next-generation programs and whether today's funding levels are positioning these efforts for sustained progress, or potential pressure as we look into the FY28 to 31 window and what might be done and what might be in store for the services in the years beyond the FYDP. I'm joined by a panel of Jane's GPS analysts who lead our coverage across each of the military services. Together, we'll walk through the major trends and program-level dynamics, and I'll be putting a series of questions to the panel to explore not just what we're seeing in the data, but how durable those trends are likely to be. Let's get started. So I want to take this moment to introduce my colleagues, Jacob Levitan, who covers the defense-wide agencies in the U.S. Marine Corps, Jeevan Palaniyandy, who covers the Army, Aleksi Korpela, who covers the Navy, and Connor Snow, who covers the Air Force and the Space Force. So Aleksi, I'm going to pitch this first question to you. Looking at winners and losers here, which programs are benefiting most from the administration's record-breaking request, and what does that tell us about the DoD's priorities when it comes to the Navy?
Thank you, Jesse. So the FY27 budget request is also a record-breaking budget for the U.S. Navy. So in terms of total investment budget, that is seeing a $23 billion rise on the discretionary side in 27 against the 2026 total, with a promise of perhaps $28 billion further if the new reconciliation bill passes, which would push the budget authority to $189 billion for 2027. So from the Navy standpoint, there's three priorities: shipbuilding, weapons, and aircraft, and largely in that order. So with reconciliation, shipbuilding would be going up by more than 50% in terms of funding. Weapons would be more than doubling at 123%, and aircraft would be up 94% on the 26 figures. So obviously, a lot of these increases, additional investments are contingent on reconciliation passing. And if that fails, the Navy won't see that level of growth, but we're still looking at a baseline growth of 10% year over year in the investment side. I think the main differentiator for this year is on the weapons investment side, and that's largely because this year's budget request is backed by significant multi-year procurements. So for example, SM-6 would be tripling in terms of budget to $4.3 billion. Tomahawk would be up by fourfold at $5.8 billion. And the PAC-3 MSC is launching at $1.7 billion. So overall, I think just like the other services, what we're seeing for the Navy is a generational investment in munitions, which is sending a really strong signal to industry.
Great, thank you so much. And yeah, speaking of record-breaking, I definitely want to take this time to mention the defense-wide agencies. Jacob, if you could, FY27 is very unique. If you look at the graph, how much spending it's getting in FY27. Of course, a lot of that is reconciliation, but could you kind of break some of that down for us and elaborate a little bit what that means in terms of winners and losers? All right, and now we're going to move on to looking at some of the next generation programs. So I have a question that I'll pose to you all. Connor, we're going to start with you this time, then we'll kind of go back around. So looking at some of those next generation programs, are they benefiting directly from the DoD budget request here? And then also, if you could also expand a bit about what these programs might look like going beyond FY27 and into the FIDIP and even beyond. That would be really great to shed some light on that.
Yeah, so the first, so yes, next generation programs, at least the Air Force next generation programs are benefiting from their record-breaking request. So starting with probably the crown jewel of the Air Force development currently, the F-47. So RTD&E spending on the F-47 increased by 46% or is looking to increase by 46% in fiscal year 27 as the fighter moves closer to flight testing and production. The U.S. Air Force believes that the first flight will occur in 2028, and there would likely be a few more years of development after that, and then we would expect production to start in the early 2030s and run through probably into the 2040s, depending on the production rates for that platform. Additionally, another very important program for the Air Force is the Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCAs. So research spending on CCA development is set to increase by 66% in fiscal year 27. And the U.S. Air Force is looking to spend $1.1 billion on the first batch of CCAs in fiscal year 2027 as well. Recently, both Anduril and General Dynamics were awarded the first production contract for increment 1 of the CCAs. So we would expect to see some of these aircraft starting to enter service in maybe late fiscal year 27 or 2028, depending on how kind of the research and development of those platforms goes. And lastly, is for the Air Force is hypersonics. So after there was some, I guess you would call it a trepidation with the AGM-183 Arrow and the entry into service of that hypersonic missile. Last year, the Air Force decided to ended up procuring the missile for the first time in fiscal year 2027. We see a 24% increase in the procurement of that platform. The U.S. Air Force is looking to take what they learned from the AGM-183 and develop a second increment of that missile, and also develop an air-launched ballistic missile that uses the same technology. And lastly, for hypersonics is HACM. The first procurement of this missile is expected to occur in fiscal year 2027, and it's expected that this missile will be a key capability for the Air Force throughout the FIDIP and into the 2030s and 40s. So,
yeah, thanks so much, Connor. And I'll turn now to the Army, because the Army, has been developing several major platforms for quite some years now. I think specifically the XM30, MV75. So, Jeevan, if you wouldn't mind, giving a bit of a status update on those two programs, and then, more generally, what some emerging programs, next generation platforms are coming down the pipe going forward that we should be aware of.
Absolutely, yeah.
So as we close out this webinar, I want to give the analysts a second to share with the audience what are the most important takeaways from the FY27 request for each of the service. Connor, I'll start with you. If you could shed some light about the most important takeaways for both the Air Force and the Space Force, that'd be great.
Yeah, Jesse. So for the Air Force, I would say the greatest takeaway is the U.S. Air Force's aircraft are only effective if they have sufficient stockpiles of weapons to use in long-term combat. Of course, the Air Force has all these high-end platforms: F-35, F-22, B-21, B-2, B-1. But these aircraft are only effective if they have enough weapons to use in a long-term combat. In fiscal year 2027, the Air Force has made it a major priority to increase their stockpiles of all weapons: air-to-air, air-to-ground, hypersonic, strategic. This seems to be the most important point for the Air Force in fiscal year 2027. As for the Space Force, I would say the takeaway for the Space Force is the Space Force believes that the future of warfare is in space, which makes sense for them. You see with the Space Force, a lot of capabilities that were based on the ground or on aircraft are looking to be moved into space. So a couple examples, we have the space-based air moving target indicator satellites, which the Air Force is looking to replace aircraft-based airborne early warning control aircraft. You have the ground-based moving target indicator satellite, which the Air Force is looking to replace the capability that was lost when the E-8J STARS was retired a few years ago. And then you also have sort of a Golden Dome related project, the Space-Based Interceptor project, which is looking to move quite a bit of the ballistic missile interception capability from ground-based systems to space. So those are the keys for the Air Force and Space Force this year.
Thanks, Connor. No, super interesting. And Jeevan, I'll pitch it over to you if you could talk about the Army.
Yeah, for sure. So ultimately, I would say the major takeaway on the Army side of things is how much of a real pivot FY27 represents towards air and missile defense.
Thank you all so much for your insights. Really appreciate it, and really honestly learned a lot. So thank you all so very much. To all of our viewers, if you're interested in seeing a full demonstration of our platform, or if you're a member of the media and would like a briefing on this or any other topic that we cover, we'll be more than happy to arrange that. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we look forward to continuing this conversation offline.